Hi, homeschoolers. I'm Heather. Welcome to another Homeschool Live presented by the Old Schoolhouse. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today, I will be interviewing Stephanie Morrison of the Canadian Schoolhouse, a division of the Old Schoolhouse. Before I introduce her, I'd like to ask you go ahead, share this video in your timeline and send it to any of your homeschooling friends, or go quickly and post it to any groups that you're in. And as you watch, please comment, like, and ask questions, which we would love to answer. And now I'm thrilled to introduce to you Stephanie Morrison, who is comfortably nestled in the trees in central Ontario, Canada, with her husband and two boys. She has educated her two youngest boys, ages 13 and 9, since birth. Pursuing her calling to help parents enjoy the responsibility of educating their children, she works for the Old Schoolhouse in the Canadian division and in sales support, helping to connect parents to the materials and programs that help them teach. Thank you so much for joining us today, Stephanie.
Oh, you're welcome.
Would you mind sharing with us what exactly the Canadian Schoolhouse is?
So the Canadian Schoolhouse, as you said, it's a division of the Old Schoolhouse. So we're not necessarily trying to do the same thing that we do on the main website, let's say, of the Old Schoolhouse, but we're just wanting to really nurture the Canadian perspective of homeschooling with mostly with content, so with articles and of course the activity we have on social media, and just really appealing to just the specific needs and just those little minor differences that homeschoolers have in Canada as opposed to the Old Schoolhouse, in Canada as opposed to the United States.
Right. And I've seen some of the articles and they're really enticing, to even us in the States, or which I imagine would be extremely useful for Canadians, such as I saw one recently about Quebec, and it talked about how Quebec just envelops the French culture, and there's a lot of French speaking people there and restaurants, and I don't know, it was really awesome to read. But I can imagine that Canadians who want to teach about their country and provinces want to have these specific resources they can't find at the Old Schoolhouse. So it's awesome that you guys provide that. Could you share with us exactly how you help homeschoolers?
So we do it with our content on the site. So all those articles, and even how you mentioned that Quebec article, that's part of an article series that we're profiling all the different provinces and territories around Canada. So we started in New Brunswick, and so almost every month, we've had an article where we're just kind of going across Canada. Which, yes, we went to the Maritimes a little bit, and now we're going west, and then so I think we're at Alberta was our last article. And as you said, each of those articles they're not just sharing about the province, but we try to get links in there. They're standalone articles that homeschooling families could use just to learn about that province or territory. But we also try to do with all of our articles, make it a learning resource for parents. So some of our articles are just encouragement. They're a lot what the Homeschooling with Heart blog does on the main site of the Old Schoolhouse. But so we have some of that encouragement, and a lot we try to get homeschoolers to share just their views on homeschooling, because we all like to do homeschooling a little different. So what we really want to create is a content that's done by Canadian homeschoolers and for Canadian homeschoolers, and which is also really relevant to homeschoolers anywhere in the world. Like most of it is, anybody in the States or in Europe or New Zealand or wherever, right, might have an interest in learning about anything that we're putting on that site. But history and geography being two of the ones when I'm looking through homeschooling groups and hearing comments from homeschoolers, that's some of the really Canadian specific content they're looking for. So that's why two of our content sections are, like, one is on history and geography. So we're trying to do lots of learning resources there, as well as using that as an outlet for people to share their knowledge they've already acquired, teens included, where we also love to have teen writers get in, as I say, either as just because they're interested in writing in that, or to actually make it a assignment from their parent to say, this is, research this topic, write an article about it, and then you can have it published on the Canadian Schoolhouse. So that's another really big part we want to nurture with the Canadian Schoolhouse side.
That's awesome. So do you have a list of what you are looking for young writers or any writer to write?
Yeah, I would say any of our sections, content sections, we could actually really have content from anything, and I could fit it somewhere related to the homeschooling life.
Okay.
And maybe I could screen share my, maybe I can go on and show the site. Is that a good time to do that right now?
Absolutely, yes. I want to see exactly how we can get to the Canadian Schoolhouse for those who want to check it out.
All right, so let me make sure I click the right buttons here. All right, so this is our Canadian. As you can see, it's still part of the Old Schoolhouse website, but it is the Canadian Schoolhouse section. So we have a whole section on our main site that is got all our content. And here is our front door. So we can go through here and you can see what the theme is for the month. And I'm just going to click on through there with that nice come on in welcome, and we'll see the front door. So our front door is where we house all the featured articles on our theme. Every month we have a theme, and this one is being December, Experience Christ in Christmas. And so we'll have our list of articles just featured here that on whatever theme it is. We also have our content section. So here's some of our content sections here. Life of Home Learners, Creator Corner, Explore Geography, Canada History Buffs, Family Food Time, and then also our homeschool product reviews. So the Old Schoolhouse has hundreds, I think I can say thousands of reviews on different curriculum and products that homeschooling families use. So we've got a section where we've just separated all the ones that are from Canadian companies. So this is the homeschooling reviews you'll find through that link is products from Canadian companies. And then when we go down just this little bit more, we also add this section on our front door page. It's all content that is linked to somewhere else on the site. So it could be one of the sites of the Old Schoolhouse teachers, or right on the Old Schoolhouse, or our higher ed site. I feel like I'm not naming that right. And then also just resources that we know sometimes from some of our sponsors or related companies, and just something that's related to our theme. So it's all related on experiencing Christ and Christmas for this front door theme. But come January, we'll change that theme to learning through biographies, which is one I love learning about. It's got kind of got a real nice history aspect to it, as well as just learning. Not that biographies have to be all about history, but it's great learning, being inspired by the lives of others. So that's our theme for January.
That's awesome.
A couple other things I wanted to point out. So one is right here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to just pop back to our homepage and show the content there. So that was our front door link. This is something we've just put on the site recently, and especially because we've now got so much content on the site, we've really built up a lot. And what this feature does, although there's the main search function here, you can search the whole site, everything that's just on the domain of theoldschoolhouse.com. And of course, Canadian articles, our content and all that'll come up. But if you use this search term, you can actually go in here and put in a search term, and it's only going to search our Canadian content. So I especially love this for thinking of those geography or history-based things. So if you're looking for something on a specific topic in in history or of a certain time so we've done our geography series. Let me just put in Alberta, because I know we have a few different articles on Alberta, and it will come up all that content for Alberta. So as I mentioned, how we're really trying to almost be able to offer stuff in a unit study kind of way, that you can just pull content from the articles we've got here. These, like this one was from a homeschooler and just their experience. This one was also from a homeschooler that submitted an article. So their experience at these different places in Alberta. This one was also from a homeschooler and her experience just this past summer, I believe. She went to Grand Cache, Alberta. This one is probably coming up because it's mentioning Alberta, since Saskatchewan is right beside Alberta. This one is on Alberta, that we have part of that series of articles, The Land and Culture of Canada. And again, just another article from a homeschooling mom and her visit to the Ukraine cultural heritage. So this is a really great resource, something we're going to promote a lot more, because it's really speaking to that call of homeschoolers just wanting to find that content that works, content on specific. Is that your rooster in the background, Heather?
Yes, it is. He wants to come join us today.
That's a nice background noise. One other page I'm going to show is our Canadian sponsors. So this is another page that, just like all of our content on the site, we're trying to build up with a real Canadian focus. Our sponsors page is that way as well. So they are all Canadian companies that we put on this page. So, and we've got, we're starting to get a few here. We definitely got lots of room to grow. There's tons more Canadian companies than what we've got here, but this is just one of our projects that we're definitely building on and going to be growing a lot in 2021. And we'll even organize this a little bit more as we've got more companies that come in. But you can see, you can just click right over these, knowing they're all Canada based, and they're all companies related to homeschooling, the homeschooling life in some way or another. Yes, and I think that's, maybe I'll do this, our Canadian Schoolhouse contributors page as well. So as I mentioned about writers, so we love getting teen writers. We don't have a lot of teen writers right now, but I keep trying to put that out there, getting some teenagers to share their experience, even just share the research they've done. So any of that kind of topic that they could possibly write on. Even anything we could have. We have a section, Creator Corner. So we actually have had some poetry in there, and we've had some writing in there in that section as well, different creative writing kind of things. So we really welcome getting content, getting articles and whatever type of writing, especially from teens, that we can put in our different sections, and then from homeschooling moms and dads themselves to share their perspective or their knowledge, or just something they have for homeschoolers. So these are just some of our people that have written for the site in the past, and again, we'll probably be building that up quite a bit more. We'll definitely be having a focus on that with our 2021 year, and seeing that grow a lot more.
That's awesome. I'm sure that homeschooling is growing in Canada just like it is here in the States because of COVID. Or at least a lot of people have questions, and so they can just come right to you. And I love how they can just search their area, or search whatever they want to learn about. They can just go on there and find it. So that is just incredible. I love that this resource is available for families in Canada right now. That's absolutely incredible. I'm just curious, what do you see as the biggest challenge when it comes to homeschooling specifically in Canada right now?
Certainly when I think about right now, as the times of that we're seeing a lot more homeschoolers, a lot more families choosing to homeschool because of COVID. And this isn't necessarily what I see as a challenge right now. I saw it as a challenge even before. Just now, there's a lot of people coming into homeschooling who didn't necessarily choose that. They saw that as their best option, as what was available for educating their kids. So they're choosing it in a way, but they didn't choose it in the same way where a lot of people would choose homeschooling before. They would research it a little bit. There might be a real reason why their kids just did not fit into that institutional educational setting. So I see a lot of different reasons now, but I find those challenges. The biggest challenge that I see is really people thinking they need to do the only education system that a lot of people are familiar with is that institutional big group setting of education. And not to knock how that is. I think in most settings, whether it's public or private schools, that it's done the best that a big group education can be. But when you're educating your own family, when you're educating just a few kids, you can customize it so much more. And definitely for my so I have two boys, 9 and 13, but I also have a 26-year-old. And for him, he went through most of the public education system. And I saw that probably I didn't want my boys to go through that. That it just did not fit very well with him. That learning style wasn't, and they can only offer so much in the public school system, right? They need to educate big groups of kids. They can't say, oh well, this one has a lot more learning style, a lot more eclectic and hands-on, and then this one is just more like, very much more intellectual, like book learning. And right, you got to teach the whole class. And I know there's little exceptions that the school system can make, but it's still, for the masses, you kind of get lost in what their system is. So, and when you try to do, when parents choose that homeschooling life for whatever reason, even if it's short term, I think the challenge that I see, again, not just in my own perspective, but when I'm talking to other homeschoolers, when I'm talking to other people that are working with other homeschoolers, and when I go on Facebook groups and seeing all the questions and comments that are shared there, it's a lot to do with having a really adaptable educational system. And I think one of the things that's really holding true, just in my own experience as a homeschooling mom, but also as I'm trying to share the homeschooling life with others, is that we want to live that educational life with our kids. And doing school at home isn't really the best way. Like, we have so many different companies that are putting out a ton of different types of learning programs or learning resources or books. Like, just there's so many different ways to learn. And I'm really wanting to impress that upon new homeschoolers. Not just new homeschoolers. Sometimes you find something that works when your kids are younger, and then when they get to a certain age too, they really change in the way that they learn, or they're not, you stumble into something and you think, well, we've just been doing this way for, this is the way we've been doing homeschooling all last year, and I need to get on 3-2 this year. And like, so okay to just decide that curriculum isn't working for our family anymore, or that curriculum doesn't work for this child.
Right.
And I have that with my two sons. What works for my 13-year-old, they have some programs they're doing the same, or they're using some courses the same, but they also have different courses. I have like grammar, language arts kind of thing is completely different from my older one to my younger one. And it's just because of the way they learn. And that's the freedom we get in homeschooling, to be able to just adjust to their learning style, a little bit our teaching style. But I'll admit, I don't do a whole lot of teaching. I guide my kids, because I buy resources, or lots of free resources as well available. But I'm using resources that are doing the teaching. So I guess that's another thing that I really want to share as maybe a challenge that's out there. Parents are thinking, oh, I could never teach my kids. And I don't think that's really what most homeschoolers feel like they're doing. Even sometimes we use that term, because I say that too. Like I've taught my kids since they were born, and I did teach them kind of how to walk. They really picked it up on their own, but I kind of taught them how to talk just by talking, and I taught them numbers and colors, and I taught them all kinds of things. But really, when you think of that stage of how we taught our kids before we even considered putting them in what kind of education style that we were going to provide for them, it was really just, we were just guiding them in the right direction.
Exactly.
And then we were buying toys or buying resources that really did lots of that teaching or that help they needed for them.
Right. Which goes along with the whole concept that parents really are equipped. A lot of parents question, am I equipped? Well, like you said, we've already taught them to walk and talk and everything. And, so God can absolutely teach us how to teach them, as they get older. And so I think that's awesome. I know a lot of parents in Canada who are probably, just starting homeschooling, considering homeschooling. They may not know where to turn. And you have a Facebook group, right? Or a Facebook page for the Canadian Schoolhouse?
We do. So we have a page as well as a group.
Okay, a page and a group. So if anyone had questions about the laws or I don't know how the laws and everything work where you are, but I mean, I'm sure if anyone has questions, they could absolutely hop on and ask, right?
Yes,
that's
sure.
something you could do.
In our group, yeah, I mean, you can put out a question there and ask, but so when you're talking about laws, for instance, we do have content we put on the site that really go over all those laws, and sometimes the laws change. I heard recently Alberta had a bit of a change in I think just adding a different option. I'm not going to quote exactly because I'm not completely clear on what the change was, but I believe it's just there's another option how you want to homeschool your children that they've allowed there. So not only do we have a document that we've made, but we also provide the links to say the provincial educational site of each province and territory, and where you would really go to find out the most current and accurate information. So whether we have the answer ourselves or go and look for that, we really welcome questions on the Facebook page and within the group. Groups are great. Not only definitely somebody from our team will answer as well, but then you can also get answers from a few other parents that have experience in homeschooling, because it's not just us knowing everything and having all the right answers. It's being able to get answers from a few different people and deciding which answer most applies to your perspective of homeschooling. So I encourage questions to ask in the group, but definitely messaging us on the page. So a private message, if you didn't want that to be open to the group. I am regularly in there checking messages, and it's pretty much me, at least for now, that's going to be answering any questions. So I get questions asking about resources and asking about different ways we do in Canada. I've actually had a few people, which I thought was really great, wondering how we do homeschooling in Canada. They didn't live in Canada, but they were wondering about the resources, and they were also thinking of moving to Canada. One of them was thinking about moving to Canada and wondering how we do homeschooling here. So I was able to just provide them that link, for instance, to that document I mentioned that we have, that page that we have that has all that information about the different laws and just to explain how that works. So just within our country, because just like the states, each state is a little bit different in what the homeschooling laws and regulations are. So we have pretty much the same idea here. Every province and territory looks at it just a little bit differently.
Okay, well, that's great, because I think this is a time when people are looking for community and they're looking for help. And I know, like the example you just gave, I know when I was moving somewhere before I left, I wanted to make sure there was people I could talk to about homeschooling in the area. So I'm glad that you offer that support. That's awesome. I was wondering if you could give parents one piece of advice right now, what would that be? In any area.
I'm gonna repeat a little bit what I said before, and it's a little bit just me personally. It's just where my head is in family life and in educating my kids and just raising my kids, really, to live that educational life with your child. And I did not come up with that. I just remember reading that years ago when I was reading a whole bunch of books. So my kids were still young, but I was just reading all these different books on homeschooling. So from homeschooling, and I can't even remember who it was exactly, but I just know it was a homeschooling book I read to live the educational. That homeschooling is about living the educational life with your children. And so that doesn't mean that school has to happen at a certain time, although it can. It's really what works best for your family. In our household, it doesn't. I work from home, and sometimes I need to be working at different times of the day, and so I don't have a set time. We don't have a set time where we do learning, and sometimes we're even doing learning at night. If it didn't get done during the day, then we do it at night. Sometimes I meant that or not, but just to not get too caught up in what's not getting done, and as far as what you think your children should be learning, they are like little sponges. They're learning all the time, and what we need to do is just create an atmosphere of learning and just live that educational life with them in so many different ways. And we do that really easily with lots of parents anyway have their kids in extracurricular activities, whether it be sports or music or entertainment kind of stuff they go out to, right? We all do that no matter what their education is overall. So it's just about extending that. Now you get to influence everything of their life, not just you get to influence that educational experience as well. And it isn't necessarily easy, just like I think raising kids in general isn't easy, but it's so rewarding. And just those bonds you can create with your kids, living that educational life with them, is just something that'll just improve every area of your family life.
And it's so freeing. And I would get in the mindset like I have to do school, and then I would look back on my day and I would realize, oh, my kids did do school, just they didn't do school in the traditional, brick and mortar sense, but they learned how to cook a meal, or they learned different life skills. So it's definitely a change of your mindset, I think. Even for those of us who have been homeschooling a long time, I still have to remind myself of that sometimes.
Yeah, I hear you.
So how can anybody who's watching get connected? Where would you like to direct them to get connected to the Canadian Schoolhouse today?
Well, definitely on Facebook. We have our group there, and I think we had that go up. But you can just search the Canadian Schoolhouse on Facebook, and you should probably find our group and our page that way. There we are, right there with our actual page address there, and then also signing up for our weekly emails. So we send out a weekly email, and they're not very long. They just usually have like little snippets. We share something that's a recent we recently added to the site, so we'll usually share some type of content that is on the site, and we usually have a little bit of something encouraging there, a homeschooling fact, or we have to answer a question. Sometimes we are sharing stuff from the magazine, so the old Schoolhouse magazine that is published quarterly. There's just a world of options to share from there. So if that's kind of going with a little bit of the line, I'll share something from the magazine, and yeah, and different stuff going on in different parts of the old Schoolhouse we might share there as well. So that's one of our best places to be part of. It's just a really short little snippet of info to get in your inbox to just get connected to what's going on specifically in the Canadian world of homeschooling.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing everything that you have to offer with the Canadian Schoolhouse with our viewers. I know they'll find these resources absolutely helpful. So thank you. And thank you everyone who tuned in and watched the Homeschool Live today. If you're new to homeschooling, go check out the homeschoolingprimer.com. There's some free information there to help you get started on your homeschooling journey. And I also want to let you know we are in the middle of the Fresh Start sale over at schoolhouseteachers.com. So if you head over there now, you'll be able to snag some incredible deals over there. We have some free gifts for the annual subscription. And one thing I wanted to mention is there is a course over there called This Day in History, and my kids love it. And I've noticed that some of the authors, actually it seems like a lot of the stories are actually written by Canadian teens. So when I'm reading these stories, I realize that it's taking place, there's a lot of Canadian history actually in that course. So just wanted to let you know that, on the website, the curriculum site, schoolhouseteachers.com, there's resources available there for you. It's not just on the Canadian Schoolhouse, but the Canadian Schoolhouse directs you to everywhere you need to go. So it all works together.
Can I add one more little thing, Heather?
Yeah.
I wanted to say that something we've been talking just at the end of this year, we're really looking to grow that project on. So as I said, we have so much content that really is learning related. So we're looking to not only to connect that from Schoolhouse Teachers and links. I mean, it's just already on our site, but we might have PDFs that we can just have straight on the Schoolhouse Teachers site. But we are really looking to build a Canadian, specific Canadian section of Schoolhouse Teachers. So
cool.
For our Schoolhouse Teachers members, you'll definitely see in 2021, our Canadian focused content is going to grow there as well.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Steph. And thank you, everybody. Want to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time on Homeschool Live. Bye.
Bye-bye.